from Rixie. This is Debuff, and I'm your host, Steve Skeels. Today, I'll be talking about the Super Mario Direct, Marvel's Avengers, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, and Crusader Kings 3. As I've mentioned before, Nintendo has been slacking with the Directs recently, and while this Mario Direct isn't exactly what we wanted right now, I think it was pretty exciting for Mario fans. There was quite a few announcements, with the headliner probably being the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection, which includes Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy. Best of all, it's coming out 2 weeks after they announced it. This collection was rumored earlier on this year, but I probably would have bet money that this was not true. It's such an obvious thing to do that I felt like Nintendo wouldn't go for it. And while they are going for it, they still managed to Nintendo it up a bit. First off, the game is apparently only being sold both physically and digitally until the end of March. That is potentially a move just to boost their sales for Q4 this year and Q1 next year, where they probably don't have much else planned, at least based on what we've seen, but who knows with them. Second, these games are basically just ports, which I'm fine with, but they don't seem to have gotten too much of a touch-up. Mario 64 isn't even 16:9, which modders have got to work pretty easily with the original game, so I don't know what that's about. They definitely look a little bit better, but it's a little unfortunate. Lastly, it seems odd that they did not include Galaxy 2. People are speculating this is due to the required pointer controls when controlling Yoshi, which wouldn't work very well on the Switch. You can do it with the gyro, but nobody wants to do that in handheld, and it isn't as clean even when you're docked and using the Joy-Cons. But I would have hoped that they would find some kind of workaround and get that in there. This feels like a strange omission. Regardless of all this, I'm still excited and very happy to see it. I can't wait to play all these games on my Switch. The next game announcement they had was Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which is a port of the Wii U game with some new content that we don't really know what it entails yet. Not surprised about this one. They've been churning out the Wii U ports, and I would have called that Super Mario 3D World was coming out on the Switch. Honestly, I thought that would probably be all we would get for Mario's 35th. I'm not complaining. This is a great game, especially to play with friends, and this port is supposed to have online multiplayer, so if it's done well, I think this would be awesome. Then we got Mario 35, a battle royale in the vein of Tetris 99. You play through your own Mario game, and the things you do interfere with your opponents, sending enemies over to them and things like that. It seems cool, but again, only available until the end of March for some reason. I don't know what that's about. Seems weird that something like this would be a limited time offering. Again, maybe it's to get people to pay for their online subscription, but seems like a weird thing to do for a temporary amount of time. Then I think one of the most interesting things they showed off in this Direct is the Mario Kart Live, which is basically Toys to Life done right. You place checkpoints around a room, connect your game to this RC kart, and you play through the tracks on your Switch. I have a lot of questions about exactly how well this will work, and how the hell someone even came up with this, but it looks sweet, though it's definitely gimmicky. I think it's something kids are gonna love, and maybe some other people would pick it up. I don't see myself doing it just because it's something I don't have a lot of space for. But it's still cool. The last major reveal was a new Game & Watch, a colored edition that has Super Mario Bros. As well as the Lost Levels. It does have a special Mario-themed ball game as well, and of course it functions like a clock. It has 35 secrets in the clock, apparently, that are all little Easter eggs for Mario, something else to throw in there for Mario's 35th. It looks awesome, and I want it. Definitely going to be a collector's item, and for only $50, I think a lot of people are going to go pick this up. Feels a little bit strange to pay $50 to play Super Mario again, but again, it just looks awesome. Overall, this whole Direct was pretty sweet for Mario fans, like I said. A little something for everyone, including some other things going on their other games, like a Splatfest in Splatoon 2 for Mario, some new stuff in Mario Kart Tour, some furniture, and Animal Crossing New Horizons. So they threw it out in pretty much any game they have that gets updates. It's nice to see they're going all in on Mario's 35th, but I'd also like to see some newer games for Mario. I loved Odyssey, and I really want to see either Odyssey 2 or another game, something else that they want to do with 3D Mario. For now, I'll play 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy for the millionth time, but I'm hoping they have more Mario coming and more other games coming too. We'll probably see sometime towards the end of the year, if not the beginning of next year, but for now, this will have to tide us over. Marvel's Avengers released on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on September 1st, and it's doing about as well as I expected. Across all platforms, it's got about a 72 Metacritic score, and it ranges on its user score from 5.7 on PlayStation 4 all the way down to 3.7 on Xbox One. I know everyone was pretty hesitant about this game after its first couple of reveals, and it seemed like most people got a bit more hype after their War Table showcases, myself included. But like I said after I played the beta, I found the game to be a bit boring, and really the whole feel of the game was a bit off. Not to mention the graphics were hurt. At the time, I chalked some of that up to my base PlayStation 4, but apparently it had issues across the board. It felt a bit like it was a next-gen game that had been watered down to run on current-gen hardware, but if that was the case, then the PC version should have been awesome, and people were still having trouble with that. I don't know, I didn't really get deep enough into the beta to say that it was a bad game. I just didn't feel engaged enough to keep going. So needless to say, I did not buy the game and I don't plan to. But what has everyone else been saying? Generally, it seems like this isn't a bad game. It's just not all that enjoyable for everybody. Whether you like the game or not mainly comes down to how you feel about the combat, since that's most of what you'll be doing. The majority of the game gets repetitive, with areas and objectives seemingly rehashed into different forms, but essentially boiling down to the same thing at the end of the day. So if you get sick of the combat, there isn't much else that's going to keep you going, unless you just love getting loot or love seeing these characters smash things, even if it's not a lot of fun. In IGN's review by Tom Marks, he said that the campaign is a good time, but all the other stuff you have to do in between feels like it drags down the experience. He even seemed to enjoy the combat, but also said, quote, "The only thing keeping me playing is the arbitrary mission chain telling me what to do next," end quote. Similarly, Polygon's Laura Dale said it's a fun time and that the campaign is great, but the missions outside of that are very samey. She said, quote, "It's formulaic and the kind of experience that lives or dies by having fun with the moment-to-moment combat, outside of any plot motivation you might have for being there," end quote. So again, outside of the main campaign, there's just a lot of filler. To me, it sounds like it could have been better if they didn't set this up as a game as a service. But I understand that those are the new hot. Putting superheroes in a game as a service is just a no-brainer. But I don't think that it works as well with such a narrative-driven IP, particularly when the combat is hit or miss for players. With something like Destiny, if you love first-person shooters enough, you can probably get lost in the cryptic lore and be fine doing repetitive missions over and over until more content comes out. I just don't think you can slap that game design on anything and expect it to work. Again, most people aren't saying Marvel's Avengers is a bad game. It's just not a great one. I think if you do enjoy the combat, you'll probably love it, and pretty much anyone would have fun playing with friends, but that's pretty much any game. If you love Marvel, I'm sure you'll want to give it a shot, but if you didn't try the beta, I definitely suggest reading some reviews and watching gameplay before spending your money. I think that this could be a good game, and maybe somewhere down the road there will be enough there that it will be a great game, but I don't know. To me, it just didn't feel good. Combat was a little boring, and I don't really see the appeal of having a game as a service for something like this. I would have preferred a maybe more dense version where it was a single-player focus with some multiplayer missions, but not as a game as a service. Next up is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remake, a game which I was excited to see and expected to do well, and I'm glad to say it has done well. It was released on September 4th for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. On Metacritic, it's currently got an 88 critic score, and its user score is ranging from 7.3 on the Xbox One to 9.2 on PC. These are remakes of beloved games, with both having been critically acclaimed titles and really set off the skateboarding video game genre. Some later titles were still good, but the most recent Pro Skater 5 did terribly in reviews, so it's great to see this remake turn it around. Other games like EA's Skate may be the better game to some, but it's safe to say many still have these as their top skateboarding games, probably not just for nostalgia alone. Hell, Pro Skater 2 is currently listed as the second highest game on Metacritic, though there are other games up there with 98s as well, but regardless, it's safely in the top 5. Long story short, this remake had a lot to live up to, and it definitely has. Vicarious Visions clearly has love for the originals, and they've done a great job at keeping the heart of them the same. Levels are faithfully recreated with stunning new visuals and detailed textures, with secrets exactly where you remember them. That may be tough for people who wanted something a bit new, but I think it was smart of them to leave it the same. A lot of people are going to want to play these and do exactly what they did years ago. They even obtained Neversoft's original code to the game and worked to make sure that the geometry of the levels was the same, keeping skate lines consistent so you can pull off the same stunts you did back in the day without any worries. Of course, the music being a big part of the originals, it's still here, it's still great, with most of the classic tracks returning and remaining just as nostalgic as you remember. There are new tracks that have been pretty good additions, fitting right in with that skater punk feel you remember. Aside from that, there are tons of unlockables with characters and boards out the yin-yang. Character and park creation are updated and work well, with quite a bit of possibility on both, particularly with the park creation. And with the added ability to share parks online, this could extend the game life substantially. In terms of actual updates to the game, there are some pretty big ones here that I think people will enjoy. The controls feel more modern, with some control scheme closer to Pro Skater 3 or 4, and there are a lot of challenges in the game, over 700 total actually. Of course, there are still some mandatory ones in each level, but Pro Skater 1 has been updated from its original 5 to 10 in order to match Pro Skater 2. But if you want to go for all those 700 challenges, it's a blast, and you can pretty much spend a ton of time trying to nail some of those harder ones. In my opinion, probably the coolest change is that your skater progress is carried over between games, so you can move between 1 and 2 as you want. They're both selectable from the title screen, and you can work on them both simultaneously. This makes it feel a bit better than just having two separate experiences. All in all, this is a great game, and for $40, I recommend it to any fans of the originals, and if you enjoyed the games, there's probably nothing here that you're going to dislike. Keep in mind that if you only play it for the main challenges and whatnot, it's a faithful remake, so both games are pretty short. You'll probably wrap it up in about 10 to 15 hours. Still a good game for the price, though. Definitely go check it out, at least watch some videos, and get reminded of how great these games are and how beautiful they look in 4K. Last up is Crusader Kings 3, a game I knew nothing about until it launched for PC on September 1st. I'm not usually much for these strategy sims, so maybe I had just missed the talk about it before its release. I had heard of Crusader Kings as a series, but I did not know that there was another until I saw it at the top of the Steam page and noticed it being talked about a lot online this past week. It's currently at a 91 critic score and an 8.2 user score on Metacritic, with a few critics actually giving it perfect scores. I haven't played it myself, but I felt like I had to talk about it a little since it managed to grab my attention. For those unfamiliar, this could be classified as a real-time strategy type game, something akin to Civilization. However, Crusader Kings is much more about the people involved in the strategy. I've seen many people online calling it a true role-playing experience, not in the sense of how you think of games with experience points and all that, but due to the player's investment in the characters and how the systems ask you to think about what is best for these characters. Rulers and other political figures have traits that will dictate the type of choices that they would prefer to make. Honorable characters, of course, prefer to be up front and have a distaste for cloak and dagger strategies. That isn't to say that you have to do what they would like, though. You make the decision, and the characters deal with the consequences. Characters have stress you must manage. Doing things that they dislike will increase it. And should you max out their stress, they'll have a mental break, and you'll have to pick some kind of coping mechanism, like drinking heavily, in order to deal with these decisions. Very cool stuff. Much of the game will involve difficult choices, as you would probably expect, so you're going to have to deal with this pretty much all the time. The Depending on the character, you'll have to make some careful considerations and decide what you think is best, both for the character and your overall campaign. Should you form an allegiance with a powerful family by marrying off a child? Should you go to war with a troubling country, or hire a close friend to take them out from the shadows? It's up to you, and depending on the characters that you are working with, you may feel inclined to go against what you might typically choose, particularly as you unlock skills from your talent tree. Many of these skills go beyond small modifiers and may give access to new strategies entirely. One thing I found really cool is that the religion system is totally modifiable. You can forgo Catholicism and create your own religion that suits your needs. This includes all kinds of options, not just on your religious views, but also on the hierarchy of the church. It can make for some interesting combinations. Really, the game just looks awesome, and despite not typically being into these kinds of games, I might pick it up. It's got a lot of content to keep you playing, and if Crusader Kings 2 is anything to go on, there's going to be tons of DLC and some mods for the game. So it should be a good game to keep coming back to if you're into that kind of thing. I think it looks sweet, and it's PC only, so I might have to check it out. Hopefully they keep coming out with updates in the near future, as I think people are going to be playing this for quite a while. Debuff is hosted by me, Steve Skeels, edited and mixed by Mason Carlton. Follow us on Instagram at DebuffPod. That's DebuffPod. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.